i kia koutou nā tāringa whakarongo e tēnei rā. Kei te whakarongo mai, koe ki te reo e rangi e whakapua ki tana. Nau mai, haere mai, piki mai, kāke mai. Nā mihi nui kia koutou, ko Andrew Urquhart tēnei. What a day it has been today. Do hope it has been a good one. We've got some very good things coming our way as we share the next 50 or so minutes together. We kick it off with this song from Big Daddy Weave.
This afternoon. It is this afternoon now. I was going to say this morning, and I realised the forecast. Short forecast this morning, northern to Taranaki, also Coromandel, Bay of Plenty and Taupo. This shower is turning to rain with heavy falls possible and thunderstorms from afternoon, easing to isolated showers tomorrow and fine spells developing. Whanganui and Tahape to Wellington, also Gisborne to Wairarapa and Marlborough, mostly cloudy. Scattered rain developing this evening, becoming widespread and heavy for a time tomorrow morning. Rain easing from the west later tomorrow. For Nelson, Bulla and Westland, periods of rain heavy at times, clearing in northern Whakatika tomorrow and fine breaks developing. Gathering in for Otago, central Otago in Dunedin, rain with heavy falls, snow to 600 metres in central Otago this afternoon and evening. Rain easing tomorrow. Northwind Southland except Stewart Island have rain heavy at times, and Fiordland and Stewart Island have a few showers turning to rain with heavy falls tomorrow. And we are live. Welcome, everybody, to the pre-show for Trending. We're still only a few moments away, maybe 2 minutes, in fact. So thank you for joining us for this live-streamed experience, extravaganza, celebration of all things news and or current affairs. So we're going to be diving into our stories in just a moment. The most highly ranked news stories over the last week. What were people most curious in? That's what we're going to look at. Josh Beatty, welcome back.
Good to be back after a bit of a stint away
Yeah.
in Australia.
Nice to not have to worry about pressing my own buttons today too, by the way, from a purely selfish point of view.
I'm always here to press your buttons, mate.
That is so true, even when you're not here. Hey, look, if you've already been sitting there patiently waiting on the stream, drop a little comment in the chat. Just say hello. Let us know where you're watching from. Going to also check with my technical advisor and make sure that they can see what's going on.
If you've just joined us for the very first time, by the way, like you've never tuned into Trending, we'd like you to know that this isn't the show.
No, that's a good point.
This is the pre-show.
This is the thing that happens before the actual thing happens. But look, it's part of your reward for joining us a little bit early. And we should kind of come up with some pre-show discussion, shouldn't we?
Yes.
Like I'm just
Are we not
spitballing.
is this not pre-show discussion?
No, but like something that's a little more focused, perhaps. Like we kind of freewheel this stuff a little bit. And I'm
Right.
just thinking of something that we can say to people next week, like, hey, join us for the pre-show online where we'll also be talking about...
XYZ.
Exactly. Whatever shape or form.
All
that
I know
discussion may
from
take.
looking at the stream at the moment is I need a haircut.
Same.
No, yours...
I do.
Mine is
I do
way
buy my own.
more...
I mean, you look horrendous, but I'm just saying
Hey.
well, look, you can't... Which way do you want it? Do you
I
want me to
didn't say horrendous. I just said I need a... Oh, look, goodness me, the camera angle at the moment has...
It's not flattering?
It's looking directly at my head. It's not the camera angle that looks at me. It's the one somewhere else. I think it's this one.
Oh,
there
that
it
one
is.
Oh, weird. All right. So very strange. All right. Look, this is all this stuff. All buttons have been pressed. What?
Just watching us looking around on the stream.
Meerkat styles.
Yep.
Cool. All right, fam. What are we, about 30 seconds away? Wow. How does it work again? What do we do? How do we...
We have a wonderfully engaging, interesting, humorous show that many people love and continues to grow every
Look,
week.
it's not for everyone.
It's not for...
It's not for everyone.
No, that's the Rumour Breakfast Show.
That's true.
That was
That's
the
not for
description.
anyone. That's okay.
We once got a text from a listener who said, I love the Rumour Breakfast Show. It's not for everybody, but I love it.
All right. Well, whence do you hear us again, friends? We'll be live with all of our radio listeners, but because you joined us on the stream, you're the coolest.
Live on air and online. Trending with Andrew Curtis.
Aotearoa, everybody. Welcome to Trending for this Wednesday, the 2nd of October, 2024. Always a pleasure to join you on a Wednesday afternoon and take an hour to go through the news headlines that the Kiwis around us were searching for more information about. Isn't it nice to know what your neighbours are up to? You don't appear too nosy, do you? But there's a great way of finding out what they're interested in. You don't even have to hang out underneath their lounge room windows late at night because the police will stop you from doing that. No, instead, you can join our show and we'll tell you what people were searching for on Google. If this is a taste of what the show has for you, then my goodness, you're in for a ride. Josh
We're back.
Beatty. Well, you're back in particular. So
I am.
Nice to have you back.
Nice to be back. I was away in Australia last week for a bit of a conference, but good to be here for Trending once again, by the way. Got the eye on the chat, so if you get in touch, either via the text, 8168 keyword REMA, or the chat below, if you are watching, we'll be able to relay your comments to Andrew, and we'd love for you to be the third co-host, as it were, as a part of the show.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's all about you in the first place. We wouldn't have a show if it wasn't for people like you jumping online, going to your major news services, and looking for the stories that you were the most interested in. And that's really the defining difference of this show. There's plenty of news and current affairs programs that try and make their read on what Kiwis want to know. Well, we don't try and stand in the seat of God, as it were. We wait to see what things like the Google search results or even the website search results reveal to us from our major news services, and then present back to you what stories Kiwis went looking for more information about. So that is the goal for today. Sit back, relax, but of course, remember as well to get in touch via the chat or the text. One more time, Josh, what are they got to do?
8168 with the keyword REMA. Super simple, that is the text. Or if you're watching via the stream, if you're not and you want to, by the way, just head to rema.co.nz. You'll find all our social media links there and you can leave a comment below.
All right, let's do it, team. Story number 1.
Trending with Andrew Curtis.
Or in this case, actually, story number 19. And, well, it's interesting. On the one hand, a more serious and somber story that leads our show today. But on the other hand, a great example of the triumph of the human spirit, because Di Henwood is the number 19 ranked story in the country over the last week. So in terms of searches received, Di Henwood was, well, basically inside your top 20, but the reasons for his appearance in our search terms are much more somber and, a means for reflection, Josh.
Yes, so he's been, as many will probably know, diagnosed with bowel cancer, but also in relation to this, he has filmed a 3-part docu-series, kind of chronologue, what's the word I'm looking for? Following basically his journey through cancer and the highs and lows. So we're going to play you a little bit of a clip, and I'd actually like you to watch or listen for the positive takeaway that Di has had from his cancer journey.
So I still remember them saying, look, we've found a cancer. And I can just remember crying in the car and just trying to hold it together. And then it all started hitting me.
It's Mr. Di Henwood, come on!
Cancer consumes 24 hours of my day. Obviously, I want to kick this thing that's dick and get over it. Right, chemo time now. The whole thing from the second I got diagnosed was just deep fear. I do believe cancer is an amazing teacher. It's taught me resilience. I don't sweat the small stuff. I am a lot kinder, but it's time for it to go now. I've learned enough.
Live and Let Die starts Monday, September 30 on 3 Now.
Wow. What stood out to you, Josh?
I think definitely the journey that he's gone, and if you and if you can't see the visuals, you do miss out on a very meditative Di Henwood, a very we know him from his comedy, of course. We know his humour. He has won the hearts of many throughout New Zealand for many years, but we really haven't seen the softer, more introspective side of him. And to see this journey that he's gone through and the takeaways that have been, again, more positive, not to sweat the small stuff, as he said, certainly, I guess, is quite heartening.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me a little bit of Mike King from a few years ago as well. He had some health challenges of his own. And if I may reflect a little bit on the nature of suffering for a moment, which I guess maybe wasn't what you were expecting when you were tuning into Trending on this Wednesday afternoon.
You never know what to expect when you tune into Trending, though. So.
Well, that is true. But we never wish these things on people.
No.
And to first speak of any of these situations like health challenges, like cancer or whatever it might be, we would never wish that on anyone that we know or care about. And we see these things as a bad thing. And I think rightly so. You know, even if we consider from a Christian perspective, sickness, illness, death, never things that God intended for mankind from a Christian worldview. Yet you do see something about these things which has a remarkable effect. And even in Di's sense too, talking about how it's changed his outlook, how he's kinder now as well. And I don't really have a therefore do this kind of to take from this whole observation, but just certainly to say when suffering enters our world, as it will in one shape or form, to see that it can have this beautiful effect on us. Maybe as I'm thinking this through and speaking to everybody today, the fear is that when this dark thing comes into my life, whatever it might be, it will break me, it will ruin me, it will bring out the worst of me. But there's something, I don't know, about the way that God has made us, that the reverse can also be true. And we see that in stories like what Di has had the courage to share with everyone.
I mean, we see that in stories from Scripture as well, don't we?
Yeah,
that
of course.
many times through suffering, the Lord used it as a teaching moment. Not that he brought the suffering for that sole purpose, but
Sure.
in it, he could still be the good God that he is. And actually, for some, bring them out the other end, but not always do we find happy endings. That's okay, because ultimately the, I guess, happy ending is the victory found in Christ. So it is actually quite beautiful and interesting to see, I think, the spiritual journey, maybe not a Christian one, but that
Yeah.
Di has gone through because of struggle.
Yeah, I think it shows that we've got that hunger for answers that are more than just the day-to-day. That if you were just looking at the materialistic reality of things, you were born, you live, and you die, and that's not enough for 95% of us. I heard a really interesting observation from a guy called Michael Schellenberger a little while ago, and he made the observation that atheism doesn't work for 95% of people, only because you need a particular personality to say, no, the natural world is all there is. You live, you're born, you die, and that's fine. For most people, that is not enough. We need something more than that. And so, look, I don't know where Di is at in his journey. I do hope and pray that he's surrounded by good people at a time like this too. But we never know. We never know how these kind of moments can be used in our lives, either directly for us or for the benefit of other people. But certainly, I think a lot of people being encouraged, inspired, challenged by Di's story, and that would explain why he is sitting at your number 19 for your most searched for people, most searched for terms in the country for this week.
Trending with Andrew Curtis.
And now we move internationally and, well, shocking news. Maybe not so shocking because it's a region that, of course, has become very well established in our forefronts of our minds for war and pain and suffering as well right now. But the Middle East, once again popping up now on international news feeds here. And in fact, rocketing to the top of a lot of international news services when we look at the Middle East, Lebanon, and Israel.
That's right. So Al Jazeera, both also The Guardian, have stories about Lebanon at the moment. Also a story from CBC, Canadian broadcasting, is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. And so the thing I was trying to find on this story was, well, one thing we've covered previously is that it's very easy to find news services with a bias one way or the other about what Israel or say potentially the Palestinians in the Gaza situation or Lebanon might be doing. So I was really trying to find something that would provide a bit of perspective on what is the feeling within Lebanon towards Hezbollah, towards Israel, and the wider expectation for the international community. Now, this full clip is about 8 minutes long. We're not going to have time to play the whole thing for you today, but we're certainly going to get it started for you this afternoon. So I'd encourage you to have a look at this now and answer the question, too, of how influential Hezbollah is in Lebanon right now. But Josh, was there anything else about this story that you were curious about?
Well, really curious because we've heard a lot about Hezbollah in the news, as you've said, and multiple different sources will say multiple different things. But the explanation given as to the multifaceted who Hezbollah basically is, that it is not just one entity, political or otherwise. There is a lot of factors at play. So, take a listen or watch this clip and particularly pay close attention to the explanation on what Hezbollah is.
For more on this story, we have now reached Sajid Gohel in London. He is the International Security Director at the Asia Pacific Foundation and a friend to our show. Sajid, good to see you again.
Good to be with you, Natasha.
Sajid, we got the latest updates from our colleague Iris in Jerusalem just a moment ago, but many of us in the newsroom and around the world are once again being confronted with Hezbollah and what do they actually represent? So I wonder if we can go into a bit of background with you to begin our conversation of who exactly is Hezbollah? Is it an Islamist militant group? Is it a functioning government or a political party? What role are they currently playing within Lebanon?
That's a very important question, and unfortunately the answer is not that straightforward. So Hezbollah is both a militant group, it is a political entity, it is deemed to be a proscribed terrorist group in some countries. It has significant influence in southern Beirut amongst the Shia community there, as well as in southern Lebanon itself. And it's pretty much comprised of people from the urban poor of the Shia community inside Lebanon. In many ways, it was a byproduct of the Lebanese civil war, where the Shia community was largely ignored and neglected by the other ethnic groups, whether they were Sunni Muslims or the Maronite Christians, Iran was able to get a massive edge into the conflict during the civil war, and they were able to support and create and sustain Hezbollah, where it became not just a political and militant group, but it also became a social program as well, where they are responsible for education, healthcare, and they are able to have a massive influence on young Shia Muslims inside Lebanon.
That context is so helpful, Sajid, because we've seen this replicated in Gaza with Hamas. We've seen this in Afghanistan with the Taliban. They fill in the blanks for a community, for a people where there are few other alternatives. But I wonder right now, with the ongoing conflict with Israel and now attacks hitting so close, including directly in the capital, Beirut, what is the sense of support amongst ordinary Lebanese individuals for Hezbollah?
I'm going to pause just there for a moment, because something that struck me too, Josh, that I have not often heard spoken of, and in some ways can even be a reminder of our commitments to one another in the global community, but that these organizations that emerge, that start to then take over the governments and political institutions, then schooling and military forces, are ones that are there to basically pick up those who have otherwise been left behind by everybody else. That there is a social vacuum that exists in these places. And so I think it can be very easy to feel like in the Western world, and this is partly why I've paused this video at this point too, to believe that there are groups of people who have deep animosity towards the West for the West's sake. And certainly that will be true. There is always a group of people who are like that. But equally, there will always be poor and desperate people who are looking for some means of eking out security and certainty in a world that otherwise it has deprived them of. And so when an organization comes along like Hamas, like Hezbollah, they are your out. That's your way out. If your family is starving, if you are part of a minority on top of a minority, and you look like you have no other viable alternatives, these organizations become your way out.
They do indeed, and I mean, that is why it was specific to me, or important to me, that as we watched that clip, that there was a bit more of an explanation, I think, as to who Hezbollah is and understanding the multifaceted sides of, as you said, organization, quote unquote.
Yeah.
We understand, obviously, the negative ramifications. We have seen a lot that has happened in the news. We are not by any means condoning actions, but there is a greater understanding, I think, that is delivered, at least from this report, which is quite, I think, helpful. I mean, from a Christian perspective, we can't just be taking a first opinion.
Well, love your enemies, right?
Exactly,
Like, what does love your enemies
Yeah.
mean? And I mean, look, gosh, that is a challenge for all of us every day. Does it mean you just let people do whatever they want to you at all times? I mean, I was thinking about this recently too. The whole Second World War, a large part of it was fought by Christian people because they didn't believe in the objectives and morals of the opposite side, and of course their aggression towards others too. Having said all that, where do we begin to untangle this web? Let's continue though with the interview right now coming to us through from CNBC, and they were talking particularly about the feeling inside Lebanon towards Hezbollah based on the different ethnic groups that are there. This was the thing I was most interested to discover, so please listen along, watch along if you're with us on the live stream on either Facebook or YouTube. And maybe let us know via the text or via the chat what stands out to you in this interview.
Yeah, feel free to get in touch via the text, 8168, keyword REMA, just as always. Or, of course, if you are watching, would love to see your comment below.
Well, one of the challenges is that Lebanon still has many scars from its civil war, and it is a very complicated political composition inside Lebanon, because the president of the country, for example, is a Maronite Christian. The prime minister is a Sunni Muslim. The speaker of the parliament is a Shia. And sometimes they have to live in cohabitation, and there are rivalries, there are tensions as well. By and large, sometimes there are things that can unite that country, especially during disasters such as that explosion near the docks a few years ago. But when it comes to the issue of Israel, the regional challenges, there are still seismic divisions. And what is now playing out is that Israel is taking, in many ways, preemptive action to try and dismember, dismantle, and degrade Hezbollah's military structure, which is why we're seeing all these incidents suddenly occur. The worry is that events are spiraling. And could this lead to a further escalation of a conflict? We'll have to see.
Sajin, you're right, that's the fear. And the extension of that fear is for the past almost 1 year, we have seen utter devastation in Gaza. As Israel has continued to battle against Hamas, they say to obliterate Hamas on the ground, all their infrastructure, just like you said, to sort of level them. Are they in that same mission with Hezbollah? And could it be a year from now, you and I are having this conversation about the 1-year anniversary of this war in Lebanon?
Well, we've spoken several times since the October 7th attack. And the one thing that always seems to come up is President Biden saying that they're trying to engage in peace talks and there's a chance of peace, and yet it never happens. And in some ways, I would say anyone that now talks about peace is somewhat gaslighting everybody, because we only seem to be further away from that than ever before. I think, Natasha, the key point here to pinpoint when it comes to the challenges between Israel and Hezbollah is place your mind back to July, when a missile strike in the Golan Heights killed 12 Druze children. Israel took that as an action point where they felt they needed to then retaliate. And we've seen now, since then, targeted strikes against senior members of Hezbollah, the IRGC that operates in Lebanon too. That's the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps of Iran. And then this very unprecedented event where all these walkie-talkies and pages that belong to senior members of Hezbollah started exploding, which meant that Israel must have been planning that operation months in advance if they were able to intercept the shipment and somehow plant specific explosive material into those devices. So you are looking at a strategy, an event, a conflict that is spiraling, but it's taken many, many months in the making.
So we're going to leave that report there, but I would encourage you to check it out yourself. If you go to CBC News, that's CBC News on YouTube there, and look for how influential is Hezbollah in Lebanon right now. I think one of the better news reports that I've found on this topic that provides a little wider illumination about what's happening within the Middle East. Good to see Warren getting in touch, watching on the stream at the moment, but also just expressing how hard it is to see the images attached with that report, which, you know, makes a lot of sense. Yeah, absolutely. And so something for us to remember to continue to pray for as well. And in some ways, too, some of the questions being asked in that report have been answered in the last 24 hours as well. We've seen the missile attacks from Iran, likely to see that again emerging and trending in the coming week.
Trending with Andrew Curtis.
Something, though, that has been equally impacting in different parts of the world is Hurricane Helene. Now, Hurricane Helene has found itself at number 12 on our search terms in the country over the last week, and at least 159 dead from this record-breaking storm. Yeah, really interesting to see a lot of Kiwis, because, of course, these are the Google search results for here in New Zealand. Hurricane Helene, a lot of people still wanting to know information about this hurricane that has hit the state. So as you say, 150 people confirmed killed, according to the Associated Press. But we're about to, again, play you a little bit of a clip. We want to get your insight as to what you think. But particularly having pre-watched this, for me, I just want you to listen for the moments of desperation that have been caused by this hurricane. It will be pretty apparent pretty immediately.
For people still unaccounted for following Hurricane Helene, the death toll across the southeast rising to at least 133 people. In some communities, drinking water is scarce and gas is in short supply. Just look at that long line in hard-hit Asheville, North Carolina. And that's where our Faith Abube is for us this morning. Good morning, Faith.
Yeah, good morning to you, Robin. Some people here without food, power, or water are growing desperate by the minute. In fact, we saw a couple of people along this road yesterday who were so desperate that they were going through the storm debris, trying to find any kitchen item they can find so they can put it over an open fire and cook something to eat.
After Hurricane Helene left torrential flooding and landslides like this one in Boone, North Carolina in its wake.
My car is gone.
Residents scrambling this morning to locate loved ones as the search and rescue mission intensifies across parts of the southeast. The collision of these two homes among the horrific and widespread destruction across 6 states, flash flooding and mudslides devastating the mountains of western North Carolina. The former bustling town of Chimney Rock now turned into rubble, but residents there vowing to rebuild.
The life in Chimney Rock is strong, okay? Like the rocks. Boulders may be moved, but we will come back together.
Survivors of the storm growing more desperate for food and water since Helene barreled through.
We haven't had power, water, very low on food.
Gas lines a mile long.
We are continuing to ramp up pushes of commodities, particularly water and MREs, as well as fuel and other resources into the impacted communities.
Hundreds still unaccounted for, like Julie LaRoe.
If anybody's seen her or knows anything, please let somebody know.
She and her fiancé, John Norwood, sought shelter at a neighbor's house when Helene hit, but a mudslide took out the home.
We looked outside and there was a 30-foot tall wall of water and rocks and tree debris just coming at us, and it just knocked the house straight down with all of us in it, and we all got washed down river.
John's legs crushed by ceiling rafters, rescuers using a pulley to bring him to safety over rushing floodwaters. Julie hasn't been seen since.
I crawled around screaming, looking for her, and I just couldn't find it.
Thousands of National Guard members have been activated, racing to get supplies to the region. FEMA handing out food and water, defending its response to the disaster.
We have continuously been moving resources into those impacted areas since the storm has passed. But we know that there's a lot of need.
And Robin, we know the Air National Guard has been working with FEMA. They've brought in more than 100,000 pounds of food and water. They know they need more as quickly as possible. They also plan to open more distribution centers for people who are cut off. In the meantime, President Biden is expected to touch down in North Carolina tomorrow to survey the damage. Robin.
We deal with...
Oof. Man. It has not been a cute and cuddly trending show so far, has it? There is a lot of there's a lot of bad news happening around the world to a lot of people.
Yes.
Woo! Anyone else need a break? Need a bit of like a walk around the room or something? My goodness. I'm looking at that story and I don't know. I mean, I am generally inclined to try and find the positive in things. I suppose one thing that stands out, at least in 2024, to know that there are the kind of support services that exist that can come into a community like that. I mean, you imagine something like that happening 100 years ago, it would be a very different story. But to hear, again, families' lives being so upended by this, it reminds me of what we had with Gabrielle only over about a little over a year and a half ago now in Aotearoa, but gut-wrenching stuff.
I can bring you one little positive, one little story that actually I found.
Please, at this point, my goodness.
There was a community that was rocked by Hurricane Helen.
No pun intended.
Yeah. But there was one house that was still receiving power. They pulled out an extension cord and set up in the middle of the street a charging station for everybody to come through, and basically particularly phones.
Yeah, of course.
Very needed in this moment.
Yeah.
They were supplying power, one of the only places that could, to everybody else in this moment of need. So just not a great moment, but good to see humans showing love, extending what they have to others, even when what they have is very little.
Well, I suppose if we are trying to find a connection with a story from earlier on, when we shared that story about Di Henwood earlier on too, and saying how, there are the terrible things that happen to us that we think are going to break us and actually can reveal some of the better things about us. Same can be said in these situations. We saw it in New Zealand as well, of course, too, in the wake of these floods and disasters, that you do see the very best of people, that we think that maybe people are going to act in their own best interests to the detriment of others, but you just don't see that. There's something about us that maybe when those things happen, they remind us of what's really important. It taps into that thing that says, no, I am my brother's keeper.
Yes.
Or at the very least, maybe my brother's cell phone charger.
Trending with Andrew Curtis.
So, ladies and gentlemen, you've made it to one of the most good news stories from the last week. It's been quite the journey, hasn't it? So this one, though, number 8 in the country, haka world record. This is a feel-good triumph.
That is for sure. So very recently, in fact, over the weekend, over 6,000 people turned up to Eden Park to participate in a world record attempt to claim basically the Guinness World Record for the largest haka ever performed.
Mm-hmm.
Previously, and we might want to get into this a little bit later because I got a lot to say on this.
Oh, okay.
Previously, the world record was taken from us by France.
It's because they're so upset that we've beaten them in World Cup finals twice. They were like, ha, 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 you take something that you love from us, we will do the same to you. Oh. If you are French and laugh like that, then please call us.
Yeah.
We would love to speak to you.
So, yeah, it was a beautiful moment. And honestly, we've got another clip for you. And I do want you to once again listen or watch, but just really look for the moments, which there are many, of national pride that has come from this moment.
You know what? Before we do play this, I want to know from you as well, as you watched along today, what are the moments of national pride that really get you? Because I feel like it's almost sometimes a bit unfashionable to be too nationalistic, to be too proud of your country.
That's true. We're not so American in that
we're
sense.
not like
that we're
USA,
very
you know. We're kind of we're like, good on you, mate.
No, yeah, good job.
Good on you, mate. Yep, that was acceptable.
Is it weird that two Kiwis put on Kiwi accents just then?
True. It's because we have such beautifully trained classical broadcasters' voices that we have to slum it with the masses. In the meantime, though, let's head back to this clip then, taking a look at the haka world record. And yeah, let us know what stirs your Kiwi blood this morning with moments of national fervour as we reclaim a world record that's rightly ours.
We did it. The Guinness record for the largest haka has been...
Let me stop you. You didn't do a damn thing. And neither did I. So let's
you got to watch.
Let's just accept for a moment that it's like when saying yes, we did it. The All Blacks have done it. I mean, okay, but anyway, moving on.
Broken last night at Eden Park. Yes, over 6,000 people performed our best-known haka kamate, bringing back home the record that was previously held in France. To recap the thrill and the excitement of the momentous occasion, we are joined by haka cultural ambassador Dame Hinewehi Morena.
Morena.
I say we did it, but let's be honest.
We did it.
No. You did it. Congratulations. You did it. What does this mean for you? Oh, you can cry away, I tell you, because honestly, it was your work, your blood, sweat and tears. You broke the record. You brought it back home. You set the record straight. What does it mean for you?
I'm so proud of Aotearoa. It was an incredible night, but the build-up and the sense of unity, kotahitanga was absolutely ripe, and the opportunity to show the world our pride in our cultural heritage and how this is our unifying force, and it's a force to be reckoned with.
Kotahitanga, that's a word we've heard a lot this year. Unity, coming together as one. But you poured blood, sweat and tears into this. Talk to us about the process that went behind the scenes.
Well, I think if I knew then what I know now, there's lots of challenges, because the Guinness World Records are a reputable company, and it's an organisation that needs to be the count needs to be correct, and it needs to be official. But there was a cast of thousands that came together as part of the unifying force of this event to really make it our own. And I think that's what we're all about in Aotearoa. So that was the lead into the event, and then to see the coming together of all peoples, of all diverse backgrounds, and the unifying force of that was just incredible.
You talk about the cast of thousands. One of those, Buck Shelford. How important was it to have Buck Shelford play a role in setting this record straight?
Buck Shelford had a really important role back when he was playing for the All Blacks in bringing the haka back into some great form, and also to be performed before the All Blacks games in Aotearoa. Before that time, it was only performed overseas and when the international games were going on. See, I'm not really articulating, but
No, I get it, because back in those days it was just this, wasn't it, really?
Yes.
Until Buck came.
That's right. Which is another aspect of this event, is it has been the learning process. For those who were familiar with the haka from seeing the All Blacks perform it, or they were in the front row of a top matatini kapa haka, it was about the learning experience and sharing and caring. And I just love the idea that our kids can lead the way in this, because they're in kapa haka with their kura and they absolutely have no sense of this not being a part of them.
Also a very important fundraiser too behind this. Yes, we broke the world record, but just quickly talk to us about what this means for this fundraising, for this
This
work
has
that you
been
do.
a wonderful fundraising event for the Aotearoa Music Therapy Centre. My daughter is the poster girl for that, and she was there last night, which was, just so incredible, because it's quite a mission to travel from our home in Hawke's Bay. She's 28 and has so many challenges, but she really does represent a part of our community, the disability community, and those who have very special needs and challenges, to bring us all together.
Congratulations again. Now we can cry. Thank you so much for coming into the studio.
Kia
Really
ora,
appreciate
Daniel.
it. Well done.
How good was that?
So
How good was that? Look, ladies and gentlemen, I put to you, if you want to promote Māori language and culture in New Zealand, that is the best way I've ever seen it done. That was available to absolutely everybody. The doors were open. You could see, particularly if you had the opportunity to join us on the stream, some of the video footage from the event. You had those who were very familiar, comfortable in a Te Reo Māori setting. Others who you could tell who just wanted to be a part of it, weren't really sure what the actions were supposed to be, but just wanted to be in there. And there they all were doing this together. This is something for all of us as New Zealanders. It sets us apart on the world stage. I could go on, Josh.
Oh, and you should. I mean, yeah, a beautiful moment. I'm a little bit gutted. I didn't know about this until it was broken, because Eden Park, which is where it was held, not too far from here, would have liked to get along. But I will say, the national pride that I have, by the way, somebody actually just got in touch, Helen, to say national pride she feels it the most during the national anthem.
Naturally.
I mean,
yes.
it makes a lot of sense. So beautiful
absolutely.
as well that it is a prayer. But I'm so happy that we took it from France, because and you need to queue up that that clip.
All right,
that
let me
I found.
find that for you. Okay,
Because
here we go.
Previous to this, and as you heard in that little clip, France had it, and their performance of the haka, it's our traditional war dance. It is supposed to be fearsome and strong and mighty. You can only see this if you're on the stream, by the way, so you have to get on the stream for particularly this moment. But we're just going to play a clip.
Yeah, I'm going to do my best as a kapa haka commentator here.
There you go, yeah.
Right, together we have right now a group of people wearing white T-shirts in the middle of a field. So that's fine, I suppose. But now let's see what happens as they all get together. You've got 3 or 4 people standing up on platforms in front of them. And then... you know what? I'm looking at this footage right now. This is from the French world record, successful world record attempt back then. So that was them getting over 4,000 people together back in 2014. Controversial opinion, Josh. I think it's fantastic.
No, what?
I think it's fair. I will tell you.
What are you talking about?
All right, do you want to know why? I'll tell you exactly why.
Oh dear.
No, look, this is genuine, even though I know it's a little bit spicy for some people.
Okay.
The test of whether or not your culture has started to become influential on a world stage is when other people feel the ability to pick up and run with it.
Right, okay.
And when they do that, they will often not do it in the way that you would necessarily have done it if it was up to you. I'll give you an example, right, that you can all relate to if you're listening to Rima right now. I'm assuming the majority of you are Christians right now. All around the world, on the 25th of December, people get together to celebrate Christmas Day. Are
Yep.
they all Christians?
No.
No. Do they all hold the day in the same reverence that we as Christians hold it to?
A lot of the time, yes.
A lot of the time, yes, but a lot of the time, no. It's open for everybody because it has become so ubiquitous, so celebrated around the world that it
I
means that
see what you're saying.
some people are able to recognize it, celebrate it, take part, even though they don't fully understand. Now, here's my big point, because I've literally been thinking about this on a slightly different context for a few days, but it serves my purposes right now. On Christmas and maybe on Easter, right? Those are the days when people who are only tangentially associated with churches might darken the doors of a church service, right?
Right.
When that happens, you've got two options within that church. You can either say, oh, wow, interesting you choose to turn up today. Where were you the other weeks of the year? Or you can say, hey, look, I don't know what your reasons are for coming here. You might not have a full understanding of what this is all about. You might have even come here for the wrong reasons. But while you're here, welcome, sit down, let me tell you more about what this is all about. Which one's going to get people to come back for more? So when it comes to things like the haka, do I want it to look like it did in France? No, I do not. Do I think our one looked a million times better? Yes, I do. However, when another culture decides they want to take something that they want to try and replicate, put their own spin on, you can either say, no, how dare you, you're not allowed, or say, hey, thank you for taking an interest. Let me tell you a little bit more about this. This is what it's about. This is the significance of it. You've opened the door for us to have a conversation and share what our culture is all about. That is what these opportunities present. And if you just be a big stick in the mud and be a real stingy jerk about it, you'll be exactly like people who don't want to have anything to do with churches, because every time they do, Christians give them a boot up the backside because they're not doing it right. Same logic.
The cynical side of me believes more so that the French were doing it out of spite to take it from us, and they were not respecting our culture, but they were disrespecting our
That's
culture.
exactly what grumpy Pharisees say. I was like, well, they weren't really doing Christmas properly. They were only doing it
right
because they hate Jesus and they want to rub our face in the ground. Look, you've either got to see these things as an opportunity or an offense, and if you take it as an offense, you build a wall and you'll never be able to reach these people again. So I put it to you, ladies and gentlemen, it's great to have the haka record come home to New Zealand, but how we respond to these kind of moments is a lot about us and how we want to share our culture with the rest of the world, and potentially how we might share our faith as well. So put that in your pipe and smoke it.
Trending with Andrew Curtis.
Did I know I was going to go full barrels on this when we started the show? No, I did not.
That is the charm of trending.
So how are you enjoying the show, by the way? What do you reckon about all this? We'd love to hear from you guys at this point as well.
Yeah, get in touch. 8168 keyword REMA. That is the traditional way. You text, or of course, if you are watching via the stream, if you didn't know, the show currently is streaming. You can see us. You can see the images attached. You can see my large gesticulations.
You can see Josh's wild and wavy hair.
Hey, I need a haircut, and I mentioned that pre-show.
Yeah.
But yes, leave a comment below if you are watching. We'd love to hear from you and what you think about the stories. Just down in the chat. Let us know what you think.
And with that said, I got another question for you guys on this one.
Trending with Andrew Curtis.
Who do you think is a more polarizing character? Text us now or drop something in the chat. John Key or Helen Clark? Go. John Key or Helen Clark? Josh Beatty, make your call. Go right now.
Helen.
You reckon Helen is?
Or have we moved on?
Have we? I don't know, man. There's a lot of people with residual Helen Clark PTSD.
I was too young at that time.
Do you know that Helen Clark was meeting in a doomsday bunker to plot the destruction of New Zealand? It's true. Ask anyone. Ask anyone who was in New Zealand during that time. If you're not a Helen Clark person, you know what I'm talking about. I think it's, look, I mean, it's very clearly along voting lines, isn't it? Former John Key aficionados love John Key. Oh my gosh, those were the glory days. Other people can't stand him, think he was the worst thing ever, blah, 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 blah. Roles reversed, put your blue socks on instead of your red ones or whatever it is, and suddenly, nope, Helen Clark's incredible, John Key's the devil, so on and so forth.
We've got a few John Keys through, actually.
Oh, really?
A couple.
Interesting.
One Helen Clark.
There you go. Keep them coming then right now. So with that said, why are we talking about either of these people? Well, not so much Helen Clark, but certainly John Key found himself back in our search terms over the last week, sneaking in at the last minute. Number 19, in fact, was John Key found, and particularly because he conducted an interview on Stuff to talk about, among other things, Donald Trump. It's like just chef's kiss. Just bring together two of the just. You just want to really, if you're looking for clickbait, ladies and gentlemen, John Key, Donald Trump, same headline. Oh,
if you wanted something to rise in the trending search terms, you put those two together.
Oh, just the best. So, not that news is about clickbait, of course. You right there, mate? Spit takes. At
Taking
no
a
extra
drink
charge.
at the same time.
So, what did John Key have to say about Donald Trump? Well, let's find out. We're going to take a look at this clip now when Sam Hayes sat down with him in an airplane hangar for some reason to talk about Donald Trump, who should win the election, who will win the election, and should you wear jeans with sneakers?
So, who do you think will win the US election?
Yeah, look, I think it's tricky. I mean, it's blindingly obvious to say that Kamala Harris has changed the narrative in terms of momentum, has gone back a bit more towards the Democrats, and I don't think that was the case prior to that.
So when it was Trump versus Biden, do you think Trump would definitely have won in that scenario?
Yeah, I was like at 98%.
98%.
Yeah.
Now that it's Trump versus Harris, what kind of percentage
Well,
do you put it
I've
at
still
now?
got him to get over the line, actually. Although, you know, I could easily be wrong, but I think it's 55-45. He wins it. If Donald Trump can wrestle the debate back onto the economy, I think he wins. I think if it's on all these other issues, he potentially loses. But I've still got him ahead in my brain.
So in terms of who should win, do you think that Trump would be better for America, better for the world, better for New Zealand, or do you think that Harris would be?
I think he's better for the economy because
Does
I think
that make him the better choice?
Well,
completely.
Donald Trump is driving very much an America first, an America more isolationist kind of view. Actually, it's quite different. Actually, it's a very different foreign policy than we've ever seen. So that probably doesn't help New Zealand as much. But on balance, I think he's probably better for the economy. He's one likely to embrace a bit more market. He's likely to have less red tape, and he's certainly going to have lower taxes. So that bit's good.
When I last spoke to you back in August, you said that Harris holds some radical far left economic views. What were you referring to then?
Well, if you go back and look at a lot of the things that she'd said in the past, she isn't a great supporter of the market-based sort of solution. She is a supporter of very significant increases in taxes in the United States. Now, she's changing because she's now the presidential candidate, and she's trying to say, well, for low to middle income Americans, I'll make sure those taxes aren't high. But I think in terms of the entrepreneurial capitalist culture that's driven the United States innovation and creativity, I think she's negative for that, and I think she would have a lot greater reach into rules and regulations and you know, red tape basically in America. So, you know, it all depends on what she actually does, not what she says. But I think Kamala Harris on the economy, just generally, if she follows her instincts, doesn't follow necessarily what she's saying on the campaign trail, then she's quite left-wing, and ultimately left-wing economics, in my opinion, has proven to be spectacularly unsuccessful.
And so do you still think she has those radical left-wing?
No, she absolutely does. Yeah,
She does?
I mean, look, she would have aligned herself with Bernie Sanders. She is well left of Joe Biden.
I have tears in my eyes right now because I'm imagining whoever it was that said, let's do this interview in an airplane hangar has been dragged out the back and beaten with sticks. The sound in the back of that thing, I mean, at one point I was like, wow, this is as bad as it gets. And then it literally sounded like somebody decided to push a lawnmower past them while I was speaking.
It was like the helicopter next to them was taking off.
Oh my gosh. But it looks so cool. Shut up. Never again.
What?
Don't come to me with your suggestions. Oh my gosh.
Why were they there?
What? Because it looks cool and TV people don't think about sound.
Ooh. Am
I wrong?
I think somebody's letting some personal pains.
I don't think you can't honestly tell me you listened to that. We haven't even talked about what they were discussing at this point. But just the audio production, being the radio nerds that we are, what were they thinking? Oh my goodness. I've got to say, by the way, can I just raise the fact that I think the interviewing in these clips we've played so far has been really, really good throughout today, even going back to the Haka record and now this one with John Key. The questions have been fairly succinct. They've been good. They've been, I think, pretty short on... Often a question has a whole, what would you call it?
Subtext.
A subtext, but almost like a little parable around it.
Oh, yes, right.
Before they actually get to the question. These seem to have been...
I have to set up the whole context before I actually ask you the question.
So that's been great. I've enjoyed that. I think we should always commend that where we see it. But now having pulled apart the audio production...
as is our prerogative.
John Key reckons Donald Trump's going to win the US election.
Yeah.
50. I liked his stat. The 55-45 I thought was pretty reasonable.
Although it's interesting to me that he thinks if he does, it's more of a negative for New Zealand, as I understood the comment, whereas... But he still thinks ultimately he will win and from the likes of what he said, should win?
Well, I mean, he was the Prime Minister of the National Party, and you heard him say there in pretty clear terms that left-wing economics don't work, in his opinion.
Well, he keeps bringing it back to the economy.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, this has been a point made for many a year now. In fact, I wish I could find the originator of this quote, but when it comes to deciding elections, it's the economy, stupid. That's basically what it's about. If people are doing well in their back pocket, they vote for the current guy. If they're experiencing financial pain, they vote for the new guy or gal, as the case may be. So interesting, though, nobody's ever voted for Kamala before, and yet, does she count as the new guy or gal? I mean, sort of, but not really.
No comment.
No comment on that one. All right, moving on.
Trending with Andrew Curtis.
Okay, with a few minutes to go until we hit 1 o'clock, Josh, how much time do you want to spend talking about the All Blacks versus Australia?
Not much, really.
No?
Nah, look, we played, we won. It was good.
Happy days?
Yeah.
There is some coverage, of course, on all manner of news providers, but that was the number 3 news story, in fact, over the last week. Choices to be made about their end-of-year tour squad as well. Where are they going to?
So they're going to be going to Japan. They'll also be going over to the likes of the UK, England, Ireland, France, etc.
Right.
As we normally do. It will be interesting because, of course, the style of play typically here in the Southern Hemisphere is different over there. And it will be really a test of... Average is the word that comes to mind for the All Blacks thus far. And a lot of the rhetoric is learning, growing, new squad, developing.
I don't know. John Mitchell was the coach of the All Blacks again.
What do you mean?
Do you not remember this? This probably predates you again because you're so young. You're so little. Look at him. Look at that face.
Only could see it on the stream.
He's got this infamous speech where he talked about how, the All Blacks were on a journey. This was their whole thing.
Right.
They were on a journey. That journey was, by the way, out of the World Cup. That's where the journey took them back then. It wasn't a good journey.
Oh,
it was a journey. Was it a good journey? No, it was not. Is this a good journey? Can Scotty Robson redeem... Good old Scotty Razor. Can he redeem this trajectory that the All Blacks appear to be on? Has he ever had a losing record at the Crusaders that he had to turn around?
No.
Ooh.
Not that I'm aware of.
Yeah, neither am I.
No, and I'd be surprised to find out if it was the case.
Yeah.
Because he's always been such a winning coach. I think the mentality was, once he was brought in, he would be the miracle cure.
Right.
He would be the silver bullet. He would be, and we're all the best in the world again.
Yeah.
And it hasn't been the case, and we don't like it.
There's only one winner in this situation.
Who's that?
Ian Foster.
Yeah.
Trending with Andrew Curtis.
Honourable mention before we hit number 1, but this was actually in the search terms for last week as well, but close to the top, sitting in there at number 2. Daylight saving was your number 2 news story, of course, over the last week.
That's right, yeah. We just always feel the need to check, don't we?
Yeah. Yeah, it's like, but it's Ford, right?
Yeah.
But it's Ford.
I think
is it
Ford.
How many people turned up late to church or early? Wait a minute. Which one would it have been?
No, we lost an hour, so late.
They would have been late. Okay,
Yeah.
How many people turned up late on Sunday? Did you see a few, like sneaking through the back doors?
Yeah, I definitely did go to church on Sunday, so I definitely did see... I didn't go to church on Sunday.
Wow. Well, neither did I.
Trending with Andrew Curtis.
So, with the few minutes we have remaining, why don't we take a look?
We've just lost our entire listenership.
Look, man, stuff happens. I've got a good reason.
You do.
But you don't need to know what it is because it's my life and you're not my mum. How dare you? So instead, we're going to take a look at the number 1 news story, but let's not put it in our words. Let's put it in the words of the Associated Press. Maggie Smith was your number 1. Oh, come on. There we go.
Masterful, scene-stealing actor Dame Maggie Smith has died. She was 89. Smith was an Oscar award-winning actor who also won new fans in the 21st century in the Harry Potter films and as the Dowager Countess of Grantham in Downton Abbey. In a statement released Friday, her family say they're devastated by the loss of their extraordinary mother and grandmother. Smith was frequently rated the preeminent British actress of a generation, which included Vanessa Redgrave and Judi Dench. She was awarded the Best Actress Academy Award for The Prime of Miss Jean Brodie in 1969, as well as the British Academy Award, and picked up a Supporting Actress Oscar for California Suite in 1978.
Can I just say that Dowager Countess of Grantham is exactly why I have never watched Downton Abbey. Get stuffed with that nonsense. But all to say, though, Maggie Smith, legend, absolute icon.
Oh, I'm very... it's nice to be reminded in that clip that she had an acting career before Harry Potter and Downton Abbey, because I'm not going to lie, the pleb, I suppose, in me only knew of those roles.
Yep.
She has been a talented actress in Hollywood for
decades?
longer. I mean, and, recognized as such.
Yeah, my first exposure to Maggie Smith was actually in Sister Act with Whoopi Goldberg.
Oh, yes, she was in that.
She was indeed. That would have been, about 1990-something, I think? So you would have been all of, one? -2?
I have seen it, though.
Oh, yeah, well, fair enough. I suppose you can watch a movie after it's come out, can't you? That does work, what with modern digital video recordings and all that. The most interesting and most pressing question as well to come out of that one, they described her as being, one of the premier actresses of her generation, also including Vanessa Redgrave and Dame Judi Dench.
Yeah.
So, of course, the most important question to ask is who would win in a fight out of those three?
Dame Judi Dench, I think.
Well,
she's just more solid.
Goodness me.
I guess Q in Bond. She's so much more
well,
stoic.
This is it. Like, she's got the gadgets, right? She's got the tools. So you'd think you had the upper hand, and then suddenly she pulls out like a watch or like a pair of glasses, throws them at you, blows your head off. And then before you know it, it's funerals for everybody.
Do you remember how this show started? Like, do you remember the first half of the show? And I'm just marveling at the expanse that is covered in trending.
And the fact that I brought it full circle, because it was that discussion about, Hezbollah and the exploding pages. And then I brought it back to exploding glasses. So, I'm just saying, sometimes in life things explode. And there's a lesson in that for all of us. So with that said, we got a couple of moments left.
Trending with Andrew Curtis.
Shall we take a look at what is trending around the country right now? What can we see from the emerging trends? And let me just dial this up in front of me, because I usually have this ready to go, but not today. No, today I decided I would wing it on the fly. And I can tell you, Frank Fritz, I have no idea who that is. I tell you what, our nation has its priorities in the right place. I'm proud of all my friends around Aotearoa this morning, or this afternoon, because the number one by miles, with more than 20,000 searches in Aotearoa, is PlayStation Network status.
Oh, yeah.
I respect it.
It's down.
I respect it. Yeah.
It's been, is it still down?
It has been down for a while. It may still be down, but it will rise again.
Also, Frank Fitz, longtime co-host of American Pickers, has
American
died.
Pickers?
Yeah, American Pickers.
What is that?
And Bearded Charmers.
Oh, they're just running two words together that don't mean anything. Also, jumping
Those are two separate shows, I just want you to know.
Yeah. So what were they again?
American Pickers.
Yeah.
And Beard Charmers. It's all about flipping things and, buying stuff from storage containers.
Well,
anyway, he's passed away,
so
age 60.
Frank is on the fritz, you might say. With that said, thanks for joining us for trending on this Wednesday afternoon. We've just got up to 1 o'clock, so always been a treat to spend the afternoon with you. Thank you so much for your comments today. Thank you for your texts that have come through, and great to be able to go through these stories that were the most popular amongst people just like you around Aotearoa over the last week. We'll do it again next Wednesday between 12 and 1. Until then, this has been Trending. I'm Andrew Curtis. Thanks again for being a part of the show.